Okay, so now we're going to look at some of the lost civilizations of North America.
Okay, so around 500 BCE, uh, woodland cultures east of the Mississippi began to build burial mounds, suggesting that there was some kind of a political hierarchy. Archaeologists term this early form of hierarchy a chiefdom. It's unknown exactly how the system worked, but it's clear that one or a small number of people commanded labor and obedience of large numbers of people who made up the chiefdom. We see the Adena culture here developing in Ohio around 500 BCE. They built hundreds of burial mounds in and around this area. Around 100 BCE, the Adena culture gave way to what's called the Hopewell culture, which spread further around what's now the Ohio Valley and upper or Midwest. So this culture lasted around 500 years, and their burial mounds and grave goods were more sophisticated. Digs have discovered goods like spear points, stone pipes, sheets of mica, which is kind of a glass like material uh, that's shaped into images of birds or animals. Around 800 to around 1400 CE, the Mississippian culture emerged. This was a very wealthy and powerful culture. Uh, they left behind very distinctive burial mounds. This is an example of some Mississippian burial mounds. Again, these are found all over the Mississippian areas, Ohio Valley, Mississippi River Valley. And these particular far mounds are found in the state of Mississippi in a state protected area called the Natchez Parkway. This is a smaller version of a burial mound. There are some that were built by the Mississippian culture up in Ohio that are much larger. These serpent mounds are about 1,300 feet long, and we've found thousands of artifacts within these. The most impressive archaeological site that we found for the Mississippian culture is called Cahokia. Uh, this was misunderstood for almost 100 years. In the 19th century, it looked something like this. It was a big mound sticking out of the woods and later farmland, and the owners of the lands thought that it was some sort of natural phenomenon, and geologists would come and study it. But in the 20th century, the geologists figured out that this was not natural, it was a man made structure, and it started to be excavated more and more, and there were intensive excavations in the 1960s. In the 1980s, the site was designated a UNESCO Heritage Site, a United Nations uh, Historical Heritage Site. The city itself, at its height, somewhere in the years between 800 and 1400 CE, held around 20,000 people, which made it the largest city in North America until Philadelphia in the year 1800. It had an extensive trading network. The people there traded for goods up to 1,500 miles away. We don't know exactly how the civilization operated, but we do know they had a comfortable standard of living given the context of the time and the environment, and we know that there was some stratification with the majority of the population living in these what were called wattle and daub houses, and the elites living in the temple. Uh, we do know that the elites were very powerful. We've found artifacts like this Emmons mask. Archaeologists discovered this wooden mask at Cahokia dig site It was buried in a mound that was about 6 feet high and 250 feet long. The skeleton that this mask was on top of was draped in a large cape made of small beads, and its head was facing southeast. Along with the skeleton were in the beads and the cape of beads were hundreds of arrowheads and other small items. Not far from that skeleton, the one with the mask, was a mass grave with the skeletons of 53 women, all of them aged 15 to 25. And another mass grave in the area contained 43 more female skeletons and 4 men whose arms had been tied together at the elbows and whose heads and hands had been chopped off. In all, about 270 people were buried with this skeleton that wore the mask. So, what this indicates is that the person who wore this mask wielded immense power and great dominance over large numbers of people. At this point, go ahead and open up the YouTube link and watch that approximately 15-minute video on the Cahokia civilization.